So this week we're going to focus on self-explanation. And my first question is, when we say self-explanation, what are we referring to?
It's an excellent question because I think a belated something that researchers have only started becoming more sensitive to is that there might be several different things that are called self-explanation. So maybe we should start with the beginning of worked example research, and which, by the way, part of being a parent of young children and also a teacher in the beginning of the summer is that my brain is addled. I don't remember things anymore. I don't have citations in front of me. I'm not a researcher. So as much as I'm gonna make mistakes here. So I'm just giving myself permission for that. But my understanding is, I love the story of cognitive science. I love the whole sweep of it. By the 80s, cognitive scientists were studying problem solving. Sometimes people in math education call 80s the problem solving decade in kind of like a self-important way. But that's where worked example research, my understanding, is where it comes out of, is the realization that if you could learn from problem solving, you could also learn from studying solutions. And that might be more efficient in a lot of cases. So that's happening. People are studying worked examples and learning from worked examples. And there's, I think it's Chi, right? Who says for the first time, wait a second, there's actually differences in how people study worked examples. As a matter of fact, stronger students study worked examples differently from students who go on not to reveal that they haven't learned very much from it. Students who are later successful study examples in a more careful way. And she asked people to say out loud what they were thinking as they were studying the worked example. And as people did that, she heard, as they were talking out loud, like, okay, so there's this over here. What's that? Oh, I see. That's this, that. She called that self-explanation. And she noticed that some students do this and some didn't. And she said, well, the students who do this are more likely to be successful in their later problem solving than the ones who don't. That's the beginning of it. Cut to, 20, 30 years later, there's a lot of research that claims to study self-explanation. By the way, Chi's reaction to this realization was to prompt students to self-explain. But she herself, I think, didn't see self-explanation as necessarily a verbal thing. It wasn't necessarily a verbal, clear, explicit articulation. It was some other thing. What's that other thing? It's not entirely clear. And so as people are studying self-explanation, there's this kind of cloud of a lot of different things people are saying. It's about attention. People who are self-explaining are paying more attention. Or maybe it's that they're actually offering explanations. Or maybe it's that they are realizing a self-assessment and self-regulation. They're realizing things that they don't understand. So those are really different effects, like cognitively, right? There's a difference between greater attention, self-regulation, and realization, awareness of basically online awareness of gaps in your understanding that you're then motivated to try to correct, and some effect of actually articulating an explanation. So what is this? I'm really fond of this this attempt by Renkel and Eitel to in this chapter about self-explanation to try to clarify this a little bit. So what I think that they do, which is super smart, is they start by saying there's a lot of things that self-explanation might be. So they narrow in on one of them, one specific self-explanation effect that they think is real, and they think it's about generalization. It's about, you have a specific worked example or a specific solution or a specific whatever that you are studying. And how do you want to apply that to some other thing? That's the whole point. Abstraction or generalization is how you do that. You have this very dot, you've got a specific thing, and you need to kind of make that apply to more things. You have to take something out of that you can then apply to something else, so that this problem and this problem, which are different problems, are connected. So he says he's interested in a kind of self-explanation that does that supports generalizations. And I think that's smart. I think that clarifies what we're doing. And I think that's where self-explanation can help. It can help make generalizations that you can then apply to more problems.
I mean, it's really interesting you mentioned attention, because, and one of our sort of early career teachers, I'm exploring your sort of model for worked examples, and we're looking at, well, what's the distinction between, say, the silent teacher, which we've been using in the school for a while, and breaking things into sort of more component parts. And we noticed that the pupils would pay attention to us more than they would pay attention to the worked example in those initial stages. And we thought very carefully, well, how are we going to get, because you obviously talk about how important it is that, pupils who spend more time quietly analyzing tend to sort of understand later on. I think, yeah, so really interesting that, I can see almost the opposite, pupils struggling to sort of spend their attention in the right direction.
First of all, I mean, something like that kind of pattern of behavior is going to be really, I think, sensitive to a lot of things that don't have to do just with self-explanation, right? I've been teaching my students for months and months and months, so they know what to expect when I do a thing, and maybe that impacts how they direct their attention. Or they're older students or they're younger students, and younger students approach school differently. They interact with teachers. They think of their teachers differently. They might be more troubled by their teacher doing something funny. So attention's a kind of fickle thing. But that's an observation you're making about, I feel like the sensitivity of routines to context and the difficulty of saying, hey, here's the set of actions you can do that'll work in any situation. It needs to be bigger, that flexible, or more flexible and more principle based, really, so that you can say, wait, I'm having this problem, I need to adapt it this way. Right. So I feel like the outcome of any kind of pedagogical discussion needs to be a little bit more abstract than just a bunch of behaviors if we're going to apply it widely.